Welcome back to Newlands. 26 points to 20 final score, an important score in Irish rugby history, the first time victorious on South African soil. And joining me on stage, man of the match, Devin Toner. Devin, job well done. Our Castle Lager, man of the match. Devin, against all odds, you must be proud of the team, proud of your performance this evening.
Yeah, really proud of everyone, to be honest. I suppose what happened in the first 20 minutes, going down to 14 men, going down to 13 men, I think we really needed to dig deep. We know their Box are an awesome side. They're a strong side, they're a big side, so we really needed to knuckle down, and thankfully we did that, yeah.
With all the homework done, what is it that you've worked so hard in the last couple of weeks, it came off and it mattered today?
As you said, we did a lot of homework going into it. Like, all our coaches put in a huge amount of work, and we put a lot of work into our D. I think Faz coming in has added a new dimension to our D. We're getting off the line, we're trying to get hits in, and thankfully it came off today. But I think just the amount of homework that we did kind of came through.
Job very well done, and we look forward to seeing you in action going forward in Joburg and finally in PE. For your efforts today, courtesy of our sponsor, Castle Lager and Errol Madlala. Job well done.
Can I just say that's for Dad?
Well, noted on that. Job well done, Devin Toner. Errol Madlala, SAB Sponsorship Manager, hands over the prize for Man of the Match. Thanks, David. Now, losing captain Adrian, tough day at the office. All square at half-time. You had your chances.
Well, we had our chances, you know. Our discipline definitely let us down. I know they had the card, but every time we had the ball and we just started playing, we either lost it with unforced errors or we gave away a penalty. So discipline and easy mistakes for us on the night definitely cost us.
Adrian, South Africa leading up to this always spoke about the bigger picture. The result is very important. What are some of the positives besides the result, what you saw today in terms of the Springboks going forward?
I think at times, you know, we did play good rugby, but again, you know, every time we got that momentum, just when we got started playing, we lost the ball. So that's something we need to have a look at. But you know, I think a couple of times when we did play, we did quite well. But of course, the results on the day is the most important for us, and very disappointed with the result.
We've got a chance to redeem yourself next weekend in Ellis Park. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Rory Best, captain of the winning Irish team. Congratulations, and you led from the front. Brilliant job.
Yeah, look, you know, we knew to come here and get a victory was going to be unbelievably tough. It was going to take a massive physical performance, not just from the pack, but from the entire team and the subs coming on. And look, you know, we dug really deep to get that win. It was really tough. There's a lot of tired boys there that are maybe running on empty now, and the euphoria of the win is getting them through, and I'm sure they'll crash later. But look, you credit to the Springboks. They're a really tough side. They put it up to us right throughout the game, and you know, thankfully we were able to dig deep and come away with the win.
You started off the second half with 13 men, all square. What were the words of the coach?
Look, I think we had to just keep going at them. You know, I think if we sat back and kept giving the Springboks ball, they were going to keep coming at us, and eventually we'd run out of steam. We knew we had to try to take the game to them. We had to try to own the ball as much as we could, and you know, credit to the boys who did that. You know, the halfbacks were, you know, they ran the game really well first the whole way through the game, and look, like I say, there was a couple of boys come off the bench at the end, giving us massive impact that got us across the line.
We thoroughly enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next two test matches in Johannesburg and in PE. Enjoyed today's win, and very proud of Irish rugby today, I must say.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
It was back-to-back wins for Ireland against South Africa. It happened in 2014 in Dublin, and today here in Cape Town, first time for Ireland being victorious against the Springboks.
Well, there you go. History in the making for the Irish, victorious for the first time over South Africa on South African soil. And unfortunately for the local lads, something that we will not want to harp on too much. Let's hope that the Boks can turn things around and get a little better. They certainly will have to. And unfortunately, in the last couple of years, you take a look at some of the losses that the Springboks have suffered, including the one to Japan at the World Cup last year against Argentina in Durban. This, Nick, goes down, unfortunately, as one of those memories that we won't want to remember. Yeah,
I'm afraid, X, there's no way you can sugarcoat this. This was a very poor Bok performance. The players must take responsibility. Probably the only three guys who looked as though, you know, they were up for the game were Faf, de Klerk, Warren Whiteley when he came on, and Peter Steph du Toit when he came on. But players like Vermeulen, both locks, Beast, Strauss, Malherbe, JP Peterson, Willie Leroux, de Allender, were very poor today. I mean, we made so many handling mistakes. We took so many bad decisions. Villiers ran across the field. Our defence was dreadfully passive. We never got off the line at all. We never put them under pressure. We played 50 minutes against 14 men, and not once did we look like, creating an opportunity to exploit that extra man. In fact, our try came from an intercept and no creativity at all on our behalf. The Irish looked so much more enthusiastic. They were contesting every breakdown. They were getting off the line, tackling us hard. And, it just didn't look as though our guys were mentally up for the game.
Shimi, besides the errors, and there were unfortunately just too many for the Springboks in a test match situation, the way that I felt sometimes the guys weren't able to protect the ball in contact, and the way in which the Irish went for that ball in contact, ripping it at every given opportunity.
Look, Ireland made some very good decisions defensively. One guy chopped the legs, the other guy take the upper body. Sometimes they stripped the ball of us, and they gave us a tough time at the breakdown. Sometimes guys were standing out too wide, so we actually weren't getting our cleaners there, and it just kept frustrating us the whole time. But I mean, we shouldn't lose against 14 men at home. We can talk about enthusiasm, but if a player's not excited to play for a test match, Newlands first test of the year, then you shouldn't be there. In terms of, we should be enthusiastic, we should be energetic. And now we're just going to go, everyone's going to slate the team this week, and you'll see the urgency at Ellis Park, which is not what you want as favourites.
Yeah, unfortunately, if it happens, Naas will be a week too late. You need to start the season well. Confidence is crucial for the rest of the season. We still have to take on the All Blacks, the Wallabies, and the Argentines.
See, the sad part, because we all agree it was quite a poor performance, but the sad part is we had no urgency. We never even tried to dominate scrums or the maul or anything, or the ball on the ground. And on a number of occasions, we got actually, the ball got ripped out of our players. And just overall, you can try and find excuses, whatever. There was one call very close to the line where the Irish player was actually in an offside position. But the thing is, we never allowed ourselves to take control and put the Irish on the back foot. They actually kept us on the back foot. And whatever we want to say, against 14 men, you should actually dominate. Somewhere along the line, you should be smart and say, but boys, okay, if there's 8 in the forward, there's 6 in the back. Somewhere you've got to make that. But we never really got that urgency to play and dominate or make good decisions. We actually made poor decisions. You take Malherbe, how many times did he give away penalties? Coming in from the side, lying on the ground, playing the ball, the ref says, leave the ball, and he keep playing it. Now, sometimes when you're not doing that and you get the ball back, you start getting into the game. We took ourselves out of the game because of poor decision-making.
And Ashwin, we talk about the fact that we played against 14 men, poorly against 14 men. We almost failed to mention or remember that 15th man is the Irish Rugby Player of the Year, or at least at Munster, CJ Stander. He's been absolutely wonderful for them. There's a lot of talk leading up to this test series about just how valuable he is as a player, and even without him, they were still able to get the result.
A wonderful result for the Irish, and I think the way within which they conducted themselves with CJ Stander off the field, I think that to me was really impeccable. You saw every player just lifted a gear a little bit. There was a step up in intensity, their work rate increased. You found that a South African player would run with the ball, there'd be 3 defenders around him contesting at the breakdown. So you could see right at the very end of the game where there were so many defenders trying to get to the ball carrier. So you could see that with the Irish losing CJ Stander, it actually made them, or it actually allowed them to sort of like go to a different level in terms of the intensity. And I think that work rate, here we see how so many different players trying to get to the ball carrier. So their defensive effort with a man off, playing 14 men. There was a time when they had 13 men, and it was squared, 3 points each during that time of the game. So for me, the intensity with which the Irish played was really something commendable. From South Africa's side,
just there, sorry, but just there, we look at that clip of JP. Why on earth is he going in so high up into a try line, into the corner? You've got to duck your head down, go at knee level, and dive inwards so that the player can't hold you up and bundle you into that. Now you must start going down, lower. Now, he's the same height as those defenders, which allow them to carry him into the in-goal area. I'm not saying we'd have kicked the conversion, but he must finish better than that as an international winner.
I agree with you, but even if you look at right at the very end there with JP, when he was running with the ball, what he recognized or realized at that stage was he was not going to get it. The pace wasn't there. So he tried to use his physicality to sort of bump the players off. And yes, he should have gone for that, but when you don't have the pace and you realize that, so unfortunately for JP in that position, he was never going to get there because he saw the defense, the cover defense coming for him.
Shimmy, draw and pass. We saw that a lot in that match where the pass went a little bit too early. It seemed as though we weren't necessarily taking on the defenders and trying to commit one or two guys before letting the ball go. And I can't fault only Villiers. I think it happened throughout the 80 minutes.
Yeah, we just like the rhythm. I'm just going back to a comment that Alistair Coetzee made at half-time about getting lower in the carries. We were just too high, and that epitomizes basically the whole performance. We couldn't get momentum because we were trying to take them too high. They took our momentum off by tackling our legs. You saw Warren Whiteley the one time actually step a bit and he got in between two players and made a couple of meters. So in terms of that, I think strategically we were just outthought again in the contact areas, and that's what kept Ireland away from us.
There were a number of occasions too when we had 5 or 6 players on the blind side and one player cleaning the ruck. And, you know, that guy was under pressure to try and get the ball back. The roles of each player wasn't clearly defined. You know, what was clear with that Irish side was when they had the ball, they knew which 3 or 4 players had to clean over that ball. We hardly made a turnover once Lowe was off the field. So, our scrum, our contact situations were very loose and theirs were very compact.
Okay, let's just clear one thing, because this is quite frustrating and I think also irritating. Every time we get into a situation like today, where we play poorly, every time we hear the opposition played smarter. Now, people, please, we can't actually, every time we play and we struggle, we say, yeah, but they play smarter. Why aren't we smart? Come on, Nick, why aren't we smart? We saw how many times we saw the player run with the ball. We just know that ball is not going to get passed. We saw 2 or 3 guys tackle the same guy. Now, sometimes the ball should go to the next channel. That's smart play, but we don't see it.
Well,
why?
Our decision-making decisions in the backs, I think that people like Yankees makes good decisions, Lambie makes good decisions, Faf makes good decisions. But Dallander does not make good decisions. And I think Mapu had very few opportunities today to show. I think Villiers made some really poor decisions. He ran laterally today, worse than I've ever seen him. And he used up all the space of the players on the outside. Instead of, there was one 3-on-1, very clear situation where he just had to go straight and a short pass to JP, he would have beaten there was 3-on-1. And Villiers runs across the field and throws it too hard, and JP missed it. And there was still Mvovo on the outside. So our backline players, their understanding of how to create space is very, very poor. And our forwards were so, they were running into where they would get the ball next, instead of ensuring that we won the ball on the front foot initially, and that makes.
And then look to go,
I mean, Lood de Jager goes twice into contact and gets the ball stripped out. Stripped out twice in the same situation. Surely you learn after the first time that you protect the ball.
But we also discussed that on a number of occasions we're cleaning. We're not cleaning, stay on our feet and make sure we actually scanning what's going on in front of. We're just diving over. We're trying to take the player.
Flew in off the top. Malherbe flew in off the top, came in from the wrong side. So our rugby decisions are very poor. Our technique is poor.
But also, I think to add to that, if you look at Ireland, here we find a team that has played for the better part of this game with 14 men, but they were better structured in terms of their defence and their attack versus South Africa, where when we looked and we assessed the two teams and we talked about the individuals, we said that the South African team, their individuals, is much better than the Irish. And here you find that there was the players were unsure as to when to pass, when to kick. A lot of the times you find, as rightfully mentioned by the panel, that decision making was poor. So I think we should also not lose fact of the side that here is a team, South Africa, with quality players. We've been together for 2 weeks, it is now, up against an Irish team that have been playing together for so long, a number of years now. So the structure, the organization from the Irish was much better coming into this game. Hence, they were able to play with 14 men, 13 men at some point, and even perform more structured and better organized as a team versus South Africa, where there's quality players and just looked unorganized players not knowing when to run, when to pass, and how to attack the spaces.
Okay, let's talk about the defence quickly, because on a number of occasions we talked about it.
Yeah.
Very slow,
Yeah.
waiting.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I'm not sure whether the defensive strategy was to let the Ireland side play out their move and then make double tackles. But unfortunately, when you allow the team to use the space between the advantage line and where they receive the ball to bring momentum, they get across the advantage line. Our tackling was passive. We were pulling players to the ground instead of driving them back. And it was absolutely noticeable, the difference between the Irish defence, which got off the line and put our backline players and forward carriers under pressure. And that's what I talk about when I say the intensity, the enthusiasm. I'm not sure whether the team was told to stay on the advantage line and defend passively. But it's the wrong way to defend. We saw England dominating Australia with an aggressive defence. We saw Wales in the first half against... And we also, again, we saw Ireland doing it against us. So quite clearly, our defence coach needs to really rethink. We've got players who like tackling, and we need to cut down the time the opposition have on the ball. And they had too much time on the ball today.
Okay.
Well, my tweet of the day so far goes to Lazy Lizard, who says, a horse walks into a bar and the barman asks, why the Springbok face? Couldn't say it any better. But back to you, as we go, where Owen Nkumane is standing by with Bob Skinstad and Jean de Villiers. Hopefully, guys, you can still manage a little bit of a smile after that. But unfortunately, not a day to remember for Springbok fans.
Yeah, well, the reality about it did happen. Xola, we're going to be able to move on as a country, as a team, and I think I'm standing with two former Springbok captains here, gentlemen. It's a day whereby it's inked in the history books. How do we move forward?
Well, that's a good point, John. I mean, I think the Springboks recently have been making history. I'm not sure it's the kind of history that they'd be proud of, and that's the disappointment, because this is an Irish side who made history because of an intense effort in the areas they knew they could take the Springboks on, and that's clearly the defence. I mean, we've heard the panel talking about that. But they had pinpoint accuracy at the kicks from the ruck. They managed their time very well. They managed the drift defence, and they stopped the Springboks from breaking the line, except for one intercept try. So, I mean, I think the reality is that, you know, it's a 6-point game, and South Africa will come back. And I just, my thing is consistency of smartness seems to be evading us, and other people seem to be able to impress it upon us, and that's disappointing for me, because I don't think we're a stupid nation. I just think we're acting stupid in situations where we could actually have the better of them.
Jean, your summary on the game.
Yeah, again, it's a big learning day for us as a nation, as a team, and certainly for this new squad. Look, we always knew it would take time. I don't think any of us expected a loss today, and I think they will definitely have to be solution-driven this week.
With ball in hand, did you see something different from your time the last 4 years, what the Springboks did this evening?
Look, I think from an attacking point of view, we were poor tonight. We were very lateral in our attack, and we had the one-man overlap all game long. You know, we had 15 playing against 14, but we couldn't utilize that. So we identified the space, we got the ball into space, but we were lateral, so we weren't actually stopping the defenders.
Bob, as a former loose forward, the breakdown point, we get more of those these days. How accurate is this team? How accurate is South Africa?
Well, look, I think they'll learn. I mean, I think that they got better and better into the second half, started to protect their own ball. I think take about Jamie Heaslip, because he literally played against two loose forwards. He out-tackled everybody. He stole the ball on the ground. He slowed the opposition ball down. So he played beautifully. You know, Murphy was okay. CJ Sander was obviously missing for 60 minutes, but he started very well. And I think our loose forwards, you know, for me, I would have liked to see, as the game possibly started to open up, I would have maybe brought Whiteley on earlier, because he's a running number 8. But, you know, you don't always get it all right. We know that, you know, and I think you've got to take it in context. We've started the season, we've started poorly. Now South Africa can go and say, okay, well, let's take the 2 or 3 things that we did well, turn it into a victory next week, and start climbing that hill.
The biggest change you're going to see next weekend, Jean?
Well, I think a little bit more direct on attack, you know, and the space will open up for us. So it's taking our traditional game, being direct, being physical, and taking the new game that we want to approach now and put that together and making sure that we do it at the right time.
Interesting enough, leading up to this game, just before kickoff, Alan said, straight up said, if they take the Springboks on physically, then they've got a chance. Would you still take that on to the next test match?
Yeah, look, Ireland played a totally different game today because of the one-man short that they had. So a big kicking game. They didn't attack at us at all, and still they were able to score tries. So that's a concern for us. But again, it's a learning day today, and I think this group will come out of this much stronger.
Well, what's going through that change room now? How do they bounce back as a team?
Oh, they will bounce back. They're a fantastic young bunch. They're committed players, and Alistair is a wonderful coach, and he will have a plan. This is a proper setback. Make no mistake, because he never wanted to start like this. The most important thing here is to say that of course they can come back from it. They can build the learnings. I love what John said, and he's remained a positive force, in South African rugby for many, many years. And I think the one thing that they can do here is say, okay, let's draw a line in the sand here, and what are we going to do next Test match? Because that's what's current and right on the horizon.
Well, Xola and the team in Randburg, these are the thoughts of the team right here in Cape Town. We still love this game. We still back the Springboks all the way. New week, new beginnings. It's all happening next week. And we'll be back, I think in Joburg it will be. But as hard as it is, we put this one behind us. And, yeah, tough to say. But we'll back the boys all the way.
Yeah, far, far behind us. So, and thanks very much to the gents there. And obviously, there are a couple of quality players in that Springbok squad, Ashwin. There is a want to play a better style of rugby. But you've got to admit that when we did have the ball in possession, we looked a little bit frantic and unfortunately devoid of ideas.
We did indeed at times, but I think we was also look at from this perspective. There was many times we find that Faf de Klerk would play the ball to a forward, and all of a sudden when that happens, you find that the defensive system from the Irish was so well established that when that player goes into contact, there was 3 players literally tackling him. So you found that we're always tackled back. The Irish defenders had the number of Dwayne Vermeulen, who's normally the ball-carrying forward that gets us over the advantage line. Today he got tackled backwards, and it happened to so many other players. Damon Dalinde, he would go in and it was swamped with the Irish players. So I would hope that for moving forward, we'd find that there will be players running onto the ball, giving the number 9 the option of playing 1, 2 or 3 players forwards running onto him. Also, the Fly have taken control of this game, because Nick, that was lacking from a South African perspective for a large part in this game.
Absolutely. Even though they only had 14 players, I mean, the exciting attacking opportunities came from Ireland today. I saw Payne at fullback do 2 brilliant offloads. He got through the half gap and managed to get his wing away twice superbly. Jackson went straight through Strauss, straight through, chipped, and Faf de Klerk's cover defence just beat them for him scoring another try. So they were in a position, far better position to score tries than we were, quite frankly. And we were playing, as I said, with 15 players against 14. I think when you think about the week coming up and knowing South African players, they will respond to this. But what is very important in the South African psyche is your captain must lead from the front. He's got to play a game which inspires the rest of his team. And I thought that Strauss had an uninspiring game today. I thought, apart from his line-out throwing and his scrumming, which we know he can do well, I didn't really notice him at all on the field. He's been good at turning ball over in the past. He's a good aggressive defender. He's a good aggressive ball carrier. But he was very, very quiet today. And your captain needs to lead from the front to let the rest of the players come. So that's going to be something we need to think about. Then another little point. Why did we take so long to get Redlinghuis onto the field? Redlinghuis is a very good tight head prop. He's done a wonderful job with the Lions the whole season. Malherbe had been scrumming well, but the moment they bought their new prop on, their tight head prop for Ross, our scrum was under pressure, even though they had 7 against 8. They put Trimble in at flank. But that was the time to get Redlinghuis onto the field and give him 25 minutes. And to take Faf off, I thought was... He was, I thought, the one player who looked as though he could actually spark something today.
Yeah, Nick, you saw some of the subtle changes with the default. I think we had pods of 9, pods of 10, but sometimes the space was around those pods. And that's where the decision-making comes with the forward with the backline player behind the forwards, when they identify the space. Because the Ireland were rushing us outside the racks, off 9. So one-off runners were getting smashed back. But if we played behind or around there, you saw the space, probably the last 2/3 of the field where we could have got opportunity but we never got there.
The key guy there is Dalinde. Dalinde or else Mapu, because you have forwards running off 9, so the 10 calls for it. It goes to 10. Then you have forwards running off 10. Now, if they are rushing up on our forwards, we should be playing the centre behind their back, who then plays our fullback, who then plays perhaps with a blind side wing on the inside or the open side wing on the outside. And we had space on the outside, but as Jean said, and we've already mentioned, our backline was either we gave to a forward in a predictable way, which allowed them to defend and rip, or else when we did play wide, we were incredibly lateral, which made the defender find it very easy just to shadow us across the field to the touchline.
But Nick, was that not also due to the fact that our players getting off the ground and getting into position? Because you find that a lot of the times our players weren't in position because the ball carrier that would get the ball, or the ball come from number 9, and then there's not enough players to give options to the ball carrier. So the time with which we get into position is also a critical point and aspect the box will have to work on this week, because the support players will have to give options to the ball carrier.
That's a very good point. But the urgency we speak about on a rugby field comes from defence, urgency on defence, but it also comes an urgency to get off your backside and into position quickly. It's playing without the ball so that you provide options to your ball, to your passes. And that's why I said we didn't look that urgent today. Or we didn't look as though we were quick off the line, and we didn't look as though we were excited to get into position to create opportunities for our
Yeah, but Nick, we spoke about a variety, and we've seen it on a number of occasions, especially the ball going to the loose forwards. You just knew the ball wasn't going to be transferred to the next channel. And that's why the double on tackle absolutely worked. Now, somewhere along the line, somebody must start making calls and say, but boys, this is not working. That's what we always talk about. This is not working. We need to try something else. That I've never seen in 80 minutes today. We've never changed anything. We just kept going through the same motion, playing the same game the whole time.
We scored a good try. Loazi Mvovo was the inside pass. Arguably a little obstruction there, but it was a well-worked-out set-piece move. The other try we scored was an interception. So in 80 minutes we created one try, and we managed to score a try off an opposition pass. Yeah. And we played 14 men. So, there's a lot of work to do. And this is an efficient Ireland side. And we've got to do it in 1 week, otherwise we lose the series next week.
Yep. Guys, well, you talk about the potential of losing the series. The All Blacks, the only team to beat a Northern Hemisphere team, Shimi. We're losing ground.
Yeah, it's amazing. You go back to the World Cup and they were nowhere and we were actually dominating. Yeah. Now you turn around now and Ireland didn't even have, I think, semi-finalists in the European Cup, if you look at the whole competition. So in terms of what they've done now, and well done to them, if you're an Irish guy sitting in, this is a historic moment for the Irish guys. I thought that Paddy Jackson, that young flower that came in, I thought he was good. Yeah, I thought he was very good. So well done to Ireland, though. But in terms of this, it's quite hard to put, your finger on the pulse in terms of how can it change so quickly between the World Cup and now.
But I think if I can also just on that, because if you look at the results, here we've got the New Zealand All Blacks 39-21, but for the first 60 minutes, the Welsh was ahead of the All Blacks up until the last quarter of the game. So it shows you how under pressure New Zealand also was in their game.
Ashwin, remember our quarter-final game against Wales? It was only in the last move of the game that we beat them. We created one try with a pass behind his back from Vermeulen to Farid Dupree. Otherwise, that was a game we might have lost. So we can't count ourselves as a team that dominated the World Cup.
Because that was the All Black game. But then Australia, you find that for England, they totally dominated Australia after Australia scored the early 2 tries. They came back, they did that. And then finally, our results. So perhaps we should ask the question whether or not, with the European teams playing in the Six Nations, getting those number of weeks as a team, as a squad, then coming here, us having to come together for 2 weeks and then play that opposition, of that perhaps, that is underestimated in the entire results this weekend.
No, if you go, when they announced their sides, this is the first time, I don't know in how many years, and I think you'll all agree, that it looked like the Northern Hemisphere actually took the June series quite seriously. Yeah, because Wales has got a good side. Yes, there are injuries. England's got a good side, and Ireland, with injuries, brought out some good sides. A couple of years ago, it was mediocre teams coming out, let's be honest. But this time, it really looked... And maybe it helped a little bit that they struggled in the World Cup because they wanted to come and make a point.
Precisely. Yeah. After that World Cup, I think there was a lot of soul-searching in the Northern Hemisphere. The type of rugby that was played by the Southern Hemisphere teams, not including ourselves, but the All Blacks, Argentina and Australia, was such that they started looking at their games. Perhaps we need to up our physicality. The Six Nations wasn't a great competition in terms of quality, but they have come out here with their reputations in tatters, and they've decided that we better perform. Otherwise, we're no longer going to be a factor in a World Cup in 2019. So this has been very positive for Northern Hemisphere.
Just a last quick comment. While we were watching the last couple of minutes, can't recall who made a remark and said, if that was the All Blacks, they would have scored. We were carrying the ball, you remember? Now, whatever we say about Wales and New Zealand, find a way to win. And that was, for me, the sad part of today's game. We couldn't find a way to win in the last couple of minutes.
I'm just going to quickly catch us there, guys. There's a lot to talk about, and I'm pretty sure on TMO's both shows you'll hear a lot more analysis of these games and see it in depth as well. Well, the honeymoon is over, sadly, for Alistair Coetzee. Not the best start for a Springbok coach, so a lot of pressure going into the second of 3 test matches. Let's hear now from the Bok coach, Alistair Coetzee.
Alistair, we spoke about the positive energy and a really good week of build-up. You said your preparation had gone well. Where do you think you lost this game?
No, I think, it's little execution mistakes, number one. But I want to take nothing away from the Irish and the way they played, and on top of it with 14 men and 7 forwards. I think tactically they were much better, and that is what we actually hope to have done, getting the ball behind them, initially in the first 20 and attack the space behind. But for some reasons we weren't tactically right there. We, and a lot of little mistakes that we've made. Just body height in contact and in carrying the ball. It's something that we've worked on, which didn't come through. So it's really disappointing. And I know the players are hurting, obviously, but when you look at the Irish performance, one has got to give them credit. Their set piece, unbelievable. They were really, really accurate. Although we have created opportunities, we had the last one at the end. We had before half-time, Francholo in the corner. We had, an opportunity where Faf just lost the ball at the ruck, But look, I know a lot of players understand what Test rugby is about now. We've hit the nail in very, very low, and we would like to improve on this performance.
Losing Patrick Lambie early on also must have disturbed the plan, although Elton did well.
Yeah, definitely. The idea was with the little kicks the one that he gave, that was the plan, and most of the time turn them behind the wing because of their rush. But somehow we opted to take it a bit wider too early, and get in behind and across a bit too early. But that's how we learn, and that's a big thing for me, is that this is a learning curve. Like I said, we made a lot of mistakes, unforced errors really tonight, which is a big disappointment for all of us, and it's not an ideal start. But we've got a series on our hands now, and hopefully we come back next week with much more intensity and sort of, a will to get the basics right.
Do you think perhaps, in retrospect, they played too much rugby in the wrong areas, and that was maybe a result of being up against 14 men and backing themselves?
Oh, 100%. I think, what has been happening in Super Rugby, one mustn't forget that we do play a different style of rugby than Test rugby. Obviously, we wanted to keep ball in hand in Super Rugby and get it behind and across quickly and keep ball in hand and attack the wide channel. I don't want to say anything negative about that, but I think eventually that's where we want to go to, But basic things across that we run across the field, we kill each other's space instead of just punching nice and hard there, and be a bit more direct, But it's all work-ons for us. I think we didn't make good decisions that always went to, I would like to see the territory stat and where we've played most of rugby, and I feel we didn't do it the way we planned.
And the first 20 minutes battled to get your hands on some really decent quality possession, and so rhythm was lacking early on.
Yeah, definitely first 20, I think that killed us. Our discipline, there was a complete lack of discipline. We just conceded penalty after penalty, and we couldn't get into the game. So we need to look at that. Hopefully the nerves have settled now, and the over-eagerness and creeping up on the defence line without any pressure. It's just a lack of discipline, game discipline. So we will have to look at that and be hard on ourselves when it gets to that kind of thing.
So a big 2 weeks ahead.
100% big 2 weeks ahead. I've got no doubt in my mind that the players will respond. They, like I said, they are hurting, and I always say nothing special has been achieved in ideal conditions. It's not an ideal start, but I know there's a lot in this team to look forward to. We will pick up the pieces and make sure that we're ready for Ellis, in Johannesburg and Ellis Park.
Terrible place.
Right, well, obviously a lot of disappointment in that Springbok camp, and a very, very tough week ahead. Ashwin, when you as a player are finding yourself with your back against the wall, might find that your position or your jersey might be up for grabs, how do you bounce back?
The All Blacks, All Blacks, the Springboks always bounce back, you know. If you look at South Africa and the Springboks, and every time that this happens to us, we've talked about this even during the World Cup and previously. The players just have the ability to bounce back. The coach talks about everyone will, have to take a hard look at himself as a player, as an individual, because, the urgency or the lack thereof that we mentioned in this game, that's an individual, personal attitude towards the game. There's nothing that can, no one can help you to get there. So I'm hoping that everyone would look at this game as the players and realize that there's a lot more that they can offer in terms of their attitude towards the game.
Final thoughts then, Naas. I know you were quite upset after the end of that match.
Yeah, let's move on to the next one. That's by far the better idea.
Yeah. I just think what worries me is when we're favourites, we don't play well. Everyone thought we were going to beat them. I think the players thought that. Now this is where South Africans, everyone's going to turn on the team, the press is going to turn on them and watch. They'll come out fighting. But unfortunately, it's an area where we're comfortable, which isn't good for me. We should actually be better than that, be favourites and play like favourites.
Final thoughts, Mr. Mallett?
Well, I agree with Shimi. I think in the camp there were a lot of smiles and it was a very happy camp, and they were great with the media, and everyone was happy with the side. But if you lose as a Springbok, the next week is horrendous. So this week, there won't be smiles in the camp. There will be a lot of very focused guys. And I guarantee you at Joburg, we'll come out and all this urgency that we didn't see will be there in spades. But how can the All Blacks use urgency and skill each time they play? We can't only perform on backs to the wall, we've got to perform now, otherwise we're letting the entire country down. We've made our mistake now. We'll perform well. There's a third test. Then there's the Rugby Championship. We must start getting consistency. The players have to be focused before every game to perform at the best of their abilities, and they didn't today.